everyone. I'd like to thank the organizers of Config for having me here today to speak on the topic of building trust between teams. I'd also like to thank Mirko Aziz for helping me craft this story. First, I'd like to introduce you to my mom, Sylvia. Years ago, she experienced a mysterious medical condition that teams of people have tried to diagnose for 8 years. The people working on her case include doctors, specialists, social workers, medication managers, so many people, I won't even bother to list them all. When they coordinate with each other, my mom has good days with few symptoms. But when they don't, things fall apart. If her nutritionist and her doctor tell her to eat different things, she gets confused and stops eating. If her social workers and friends and family aren't sharing schedules, she misses critical appointments that we've waited months to get. If medication managers and specialists aren't aligned, she can end up in the emergency room with medication side effects. I recently hired a healthcare advocate, and her job is to get people to talk to each other and work together. You would think this type of facilitator wouldn't be necessary, but without her, people stop collaborating. When you visualize all these communication feedback loops, it's obvious how years of silos have left so much room for my mom to slip between the cracks. And if this sounds familiar, it might be because you found yourself in a similar situation at work. Perhaps you're tired of going back and forth between people, exhausted by the effort that it takes to break down silos. The reality is that our systems are broken, or as some would say, they're operating just as intended, but harming people that they weren't designed for. From our healthcare systems to our organizational systems, they encourage us to stay in our lanes, force us to compromise on our health and the quality of the work that we do, and limit our belief in what's possible. So I'm Hayley, and I'm a design director. I've spent most of my career leading design system teams in-house at large organizations. At IBM, I helped build their design program from the ground up, scaling from 60 to over 3,000 designers. At Airbnb and Shopify, I helped them redesign their career leveling frameworks and evolve their design systems. Through many successful and unsuccessful attempts at trying to work with different teams, what I found is that our current beliefs and behaviors prevent teams from trusting each other and working together. And so I want to use this time to talk about what a team of teams is, the benefits of this model and how it can make us and our teams better, the limiting beliefs that hold us back from working this way, and our role in removing those blockers and moving forward together. So first, I'd like to introduce you to some organizational archetypes. Today, many of us work at a company where we can open an org chart that looks something like this. Author and Army General Stanley McChrystal calls this the command structure. In the command structure, people take orders from and only listen to their boss. Getting to know others and making friends isn't part of the job description. In this structure, it's the vertical ties that matter most. And while it's a very efficient way of working, it's also the least resilient. The goals in this model are to work fast, maintain accuracy, and be productive, which might be okay if you're doing repetitive tasks. But if you're engaged in complex problem solving, it's far more advantageous to organize a team. The command of teams model is more typical of the companies that many of us here likely work at. In this model, teams are messy because we give them time to get to know each other and learn one another's responsibilities. Even though building trust and belonging takes time, it's these things that make a team more adaptable and effective. The problem is that these high-performing teams still only build the kind of trust needed for resiliency within themselves. These benefits stop the minute that they hit a silo in the org chart. These silos encourage teams to outperform one another, create artificial territories around their work, and compete for scarce resources and funding. And it's these types of implicit behaviors that continue to sabotage further broader efforts at collaboration. So what is a team of teams? The team of teams structure is not the way that most organizations work today, but it is how some individuals want to work in spite of the org chart. On a team of teams, people get to know one another, at least one other person on many other teams. And connection comes from a sense of deep shared purpose. There's an understanding of the whole, not just the parts. Collaboration happens across teams, not just within them. And this is how a lot of horizontal teams, like design system teams, already operate today out of necessity. It's an emergent way of organizing that creates diverse capabilities and enables people to challenge old ideas and be more creative. It helps organizations anticipate unknowns, respond to crisis, and innovate in real time. The team of teams model is not always the most appropriate for organizations who value efficiency and standardization above all. And it also doesn't make sense for teams operating in simple problem spaces. As I mentioned earlier, there are implicit behaviors that sabotage collaboration. When determining the root cause of these behaviors, it helps to think about different lenses. First, zoom in to consider the people at work, individual motivations and behavior and relationships. Then zoom out to observe the environment that people inhabit, the institutional structure and resources and policies. For example, I once observed a team where there was this behavior of hiding work from another team. However, the reason why collaboration suffered was institutional, not individual. One team actually didn't have licenses to the tool that the other team was using, and they assumed that they were being intentionally excluded. So it's important to always identify the relationships between these lenses in order to anticipate invisible barriers to collaboration. Bringing us back to the archetypes, I'd like to offer some stories from the real world to help us build a shared understanding of a team of teams. I'll start with a very practical scenario. Before working on design systems, I used to study local food systems. Every day, people struggle for access to fresh, affordable food. Last year, I was in Austin when a storm dubbed the winter apocalypse hit. We lost power, our pipes burst, and everything in our fridge spoiled. We left our house without food and water access. Yet it wasn't before long that we started getting messages on our phones about watering stations in parking lots and food pickups from local restaurants. Because the food was going to go bad, grocery stores just let people take what they needed. I interviewed Aaron White, the founder of Community Food Lab, who told me that messy relationships and messy cities and redundant systems are often the ones that are really resilient. It wasn't until the winter apocalypse that I realized just how powerful the team of teams model could be in times of crisis. I watched each neighbor and business owner banding together to improvise a rapid distribution of resources to help people weather the storm. Evidence of the team of teams success has been around for well over half a century. In the 1960s, NASA tried to figure out how to get a person to the moon for the first time. Because they couldn't solve this problem alone, they had to hire scientists and engineers and other experts. But there was lots of red tape about who could have access to classified information. So the director created a new in and out policy. The new contractors had to understand the ins and outs of the Apollo project completely and keep the big picture in focus. Building a habit of rapid information sharing, different teams and departments that used to spend weeks talking past each other could get together and solve problems in a single day. This philosophy, now better known as systems thinking, showed that when working in a problem space with many interdependencies, shared context matters more than any efficiencies gained from silos. At the same time, Europe rallied many countries around the goal of getting to the moon. Like Apollo, the Europa project had similar access to experts and resources. The main difference was the division of labor was split across countries. The United Kingdom provided the rocket's booster, France built the second stage, Germany built the third. The rocket carried a satellite built in Italy, the telemetry was developed by the Netherlands, and Belgium developed a ground guidance system. Each country followed their own segmented practices, often withholding information from one another in order to gain economic advantage. As a result, 5 consecutive launch efforts failed, largely due to communication issues and the inability to interface between each country's contributions. So what does this example show about our organizational archetypes? The command of team structure is more efficient in theory, but faster teams in silos may not be as impactful. A team of teams may take more time to collect understanding, but It's that long-term resiliency that turns moonshots into reality. In a Harvard Business Review article called "What Does Cross-Silo Leadership Look Like?" they found that when employees can reach outside of their silos, they learn more and gain skills faster. And companies with more cross-team collaboration achieve greater customer loyalty and higher margins. So for a second, I'd like us to ask ourselves these questions. What if the way we worked was less siloed and more collaborative? What would we get if we redesigned our relationship to teamwork? The good news is that there are people building new models to promote collaboration. Here are a few examples. It's often the case that when people think of design systems, the first thing that comes to mind is some logos, colors, typefaces, but design systems are so much more. Design systems are any set of decisions that can be governed across the organization. Here's some examples to show you just how far-reaching these types of decisions are. Google documents decisions about how to theme components. Apple documents decisions about how to create services. IBM documents decisions about how to apply research archetypes. Shopify documents decisions about how to work within specific domains, like retail. And Spotify documents decisions about how to design for everything from a car to a watch to a fridge. With so many decisions being made in different departments and functions, teams need to work together to ensure that decisions are aligned across the organization. How do we do this? Much like the team of teams, which focuses on horizontal connections, many large-scale organizations have created a system of systems. A system of systems brings together decisions being made by multiple teams under a single umbrella. By creating one family of design systems, we bring together as much institutional knowledge as possible to create unified experiences. To collaborate, you need people to unlearn beliefs associated with the chain of command. If the org chart represents a hierarchy, make a new map and share it with people. At Shopify, we ran into this issue where many teams thought that they were unique, but they were far more alike than different. To show them, we made a visualization displaying all the factors they had in common. By connecting the dots between teams, this map gently nudged them to work together. One of the fastest ways to encourage collaboration is to incentivize it. At Airbnb, we added a dimension to our career leveling framework called organizational development. Empowering people to improve the way the organization works and seeing that responsibility as part of their career growth gave them motivation to get curious about the teams beyond their silos. We also developed a partnership program that helped people find each other. The partnership paired 2 to 4 individuals from different business lines, nominated by their managers to work together. In a survey, one partner even noted that this program had been the single most effective change brought to the design language system in years. Recently at work, we started a new project bringing 3 teams together for 8 weeks from across different lines of business to redesign our internal tools. After just a couple of weeks, we started receiving positive messages about the project. One person said, "We're all so close. I forget who is on what team because it feels like one team." It's these types of messages and examples that demonstrate that it's possible to build when there's trust that's possible to build when you organize a team of teams and design intentionally for cross-team collaboration. Yet when making change, we face a lot of resistance, not only from others, but from within ourselves. Sometimes there's a voice in our heads telling us all the reasons why it just won't work. That voice is shaped by the beliefs that we have that limit our potential and hold us back. When I was first asked to lead the design language at IBM, my boss told me that it would have to work for everything, thousands of software products and brand experiences. And I almost didn't take the job because I kept hearing these things in my head. I can't be everywhere at once. I don't know enough. We won't get everyone aligned. What if people don't use it? These beliefs influenced my behavior. I stayed late at work. I felt the need to reply to every message and be available at all times. I had 3-ring binders of brand and product research that came with me to all my meetings. And eventually I realized With the level of complexity and ambiguity of the problem space, I had to let go of trying to control every possible outcome for my well-being and for the sake of that sad, broken printer that kept running out of ink to make all those binders for me. So, what are some limiting beliefs that come to mind when you think about cross-team collaboration? Here are some common ones I hear most often. Working together will slow us down. This belief comes from a fear that if we aren't hustling and shipping fast enough, another team or our competitors will beat us. A person with this belief likely has a team running in the same hamster wheel that they are, compromising on quality, guarding their work from others, and likely burning out because they can't keep up with the unrealistic expectations. We'll give you visibility. This one sounds like good intent, but can quickly turn into collaboration theater. Visibility is awareness, but without a strategy to work together, it doesn't go far. It's like putting on your tennis shoes as if you're about to exercise and then not going running, which I know because I've done it. Visibility is a way to get started, but thoughtful planning and follow through is how we get teams moving in the same direction. Our management won't buy in. This fear comes from the chain of command that tells us that we have to ask for permission to try something new. In many cases, this belief holds us back from ever having the conversation in the first place, but you can't get what you don't ask for. And hopefully it's rare that our bosses tell us how our teams should do their work. We can't change our roadmap. It's already planned. This comes from a fear of ambiguity and letting go. In this case, people are protecting existing work. It feels safe to have a direction and know where we're going, but the reality is that most things don't go exactly as planned anyways. And if we don't make room for emergent opportunities, we miss out on doing things we never thought were possible. We own this. This small but mighty statement is a kiss of death for collaboration. Ownership is the actor right to possess something, whereas stewardship is the job of supervising or taking care of something. The nuance of this language comes down to belonging. Something I own belongs to me and I control it. Something that I steward belongs to the community and anyone can help take care of it. Working together means unlearning the exclusionary behaviors of ownership and starting to role model the inclusive acts of stewardship. So how do we calm the fears of the voices in our heads? Let's reframe the beliefs that hold us back into ones that sound more like opportunity. What if we thought of our teams as one team collaborating instead of many teams competing? What if we invested as much in building trust between our teams as we do in building up our own team? What if instead of waiting for a reorg, we started culturally integrating our teams and our ways of working today? In order to move forward, we need to not only identify barriers, but also consider the advantages that enable us to work with others. Consider the shared rituals and goals that already bring teams together. How can you bring them even closer? Think about the tools and processes that already create healthy conditions for cross-team collaboration and double down on those. Think about your own relationships at work, the people you report to and those who report to you. Now consider people in other functions or geography whose work touches yours in some way. Which relationships get prioritized in your day-to-day job? If you woke up tomorrow and went to work and you were told that you could work with one other person outside of your team on a problem that you were solving, who would that be and why? If you know the answer, you're already halfway there. Make it happen. Start with just one other person and contribute to each other's work. Then encourage other people on your team to do the same. Find one person on another team to get to know, not just designers and engineers, but marketers, data scientists, sales representatives. Over time, these partnerships can turn into larger cross-team engagements like sharing sprints, aligning goals, co-creating roadmaps, piloting, and joint projects. When people come to you wanting to work together, consider guiding the conversation with open-ended questions, as opposed to limiting beliefs. Instead of saying, collaboration will slow us down, ask, what are the benefits that we value over speed? Instead of saying, we'll give you visibility, ask what other forms of collaboration might exist. Instead of saying management won't buy in, ask what support do we need in order to accomplish this? Instead of saying our roadmap's already planned, ask what could we change to make collaboration possible? Instead of saying we own this, ask who can help steward this? Beyond our beliefs, let's redesign the organizations we want to work in, not just the work itself. Otherwise, the organizations will decide for us. So how do we want to start operating more like a team of teams? In order for teams to keep a big picture in mind, there has to be a clear vision. Leaders need to create a holistic narrative around the strategy. For example, Airbnb created a vibrant storyboard to unite teams around the entire host and guest journey. People get inspired to work together when they can tell a story about a desirable future and who it serves. I mentioned incentives earlier, but it's important to align on what's measured across teams and functions. Ensure that the way that people are assessed on performance and outcomes is aligned. For example, if one function is measured on customer satisfaction and another is measured on cost savings, they might have a hard time collaborating. Investing in education might traditionally mean building out practices, programming, and talent development. But when it comes to collaboration, what's also critical is encouraging people to learn from each other. Give teams time to build shared language and domain knowledge. Allow people flexibility to move roles between functions and departments. And make it easy for teams to learn all aspects of the business and teach each other new things. Invest in continuous organizational development. Give people the ability to redesign the business that they work in, not just the products they sell. For example, IBM has teams in human resources, finance, and legal redesigning and implementing improvements to those parts of the business. And it's not just about improving the infrastructure, it's also about iterating on the culture to create safe and inclusive places for people to grow. Today, we've talked about the consequences when we don't work together. Luckily, the places we work are moving from a chain of command to a team of teams. And that's a good thing. It's better for us, it's better for our teams and the people that we serve. But when our inner critic creeps in, limiting beliefs can block us. And it's our job to remove those blockers and move forward together. If there's one aspiration that I want to leave you with today, I encourage everyone in times of uncertainty and crisis, in times of change and moonshots, discomfort and growth, to choose collaboration over silos. I'm sure that when you do, your team and the people that you serve will be grateful. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm really grateful that you joined and to listen to my story. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please reach out to me over Twitter or LinkedIn, and have a wonderful time at Config.